Hi, I'm Chad Evans. I'm back again. That was a great conversation with Deborah and Daniel, and we are excited about Nashville, with or without Taylor. Um, but I'm here to announce another exciting competitiveness conversation. Dates still to be determined, but we're working hard at that, and I think we'll have some ideas shortly. But I'm really honored to have with me in this conversation Dr. Marlene Tromp, the president of Boise State University, and Dr. Marianne Walck, not only the Chief Research Officer, but also the Deputy Director for, I believe, Science and Technology at Idaho National Lab. And before I turn to both of them to really make the case for Idaho and why we're excited to be out there, I thought maybe I'd share with you all, and hopefully you can correct me if I'm wrong, some of why Deborah and I think we're really excited to come out to Idaho. So first of all, did you all know that manufacturing accounts for more than 100,000 jobs in Idaho? That's 10% of Idaho's jobs portfolio. And in that manufacturing mix, Idaho is today the home of the only US-based memory chip maker, Micron Technology. And Idaho's total semiconductor industry supports more than 8,200 jobs. That's a tremendous number in a state of that size. And the semiconductor industry represents, at least the products that come out of the semiconductor industry, is the largest export from Idaho. And of course, Idaho is the home of the Idaho National Laboratory, which is the national lab that designed and created and produced the world's first nuclear reactor that generated usable electrical power. So, and in combination, the lab, Boise State, are also tightly coupled in driving growth in Idaho's high technology industry sector. The number of high-tech companies has increased by over 60% in Idaho over the past decade. And of course, at the heart of that innovation engine is the greater metropolitan area of Boise. Boise is, if not one of the fastest growing metropolitan areas in the entire country. But it is also the most isolated in terms of its location from other major cities when you look at other mid-sized cities in the contiguous United States. So an interesting demographic portfolio there as well. So for all of these reasons, Idaho is an interesting mix, and I think what we're hoping to hear from you, Marlene, and you, Marianne, not only why Idaho, but why have we chosen the lens of the coupling between the future of advanced microelectronics and semiconductors and the future of clean energy technology, in particular nuclear. Marlene, maybe I could turn to you first, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Chad. We're really excited to invite people out to, a lot of times people know us because of our blue football field, but there is so much more going on than that. In fact, what we like to say is the entire state is a place of blue turf thinking, where nobody had ever asked the question, you know, why does AstroTurf have to be green? Because it's not real grass. And Boise was the first institution that asked that. And this isolation that Chad mentioned, what that has actually bred is a kind of self-reliance, a community of self-reliance. So people are creating things because there's no way to connect with another city. You know, that's why Boise has its own opera, its own ballet, because we can't drive somewhere to get it. It's, you know, we're out there in the middle of nowhere. We're looking at August 6th through 8th in 2024, and it's one of the most beautiful places in the country to visit at that time. But the thing that I think is really exciting is the kinds of things that are happening there that are a product of that same kind of innovation and blue turf thinking. We are part of the Upwards Initiative, which is this semiconductor, this global semiconductor effort to advance US competitiveness in the semiconductor industry. We're partnered very closely with Micron. We have the largest engineering school in the state, the largest business school in the state, but we're also doing things in some pretty unique ways around that. We're reaching out. You've heard a lot of people mention today that we've under-tapped rural communities, and when people talk about that demographic cliff, what they're presuming is that only the same students who've ever gone to college before are going to go to college again.
Right.
So if we don't want to be faced with that demographic cliff, what we need to think about is how do we tap a population of students that's remained largely untapped. And in rural communities, there's been a massive decline in college attendance. And so if we can reach into those rural communities, we're going to make an enormous difference in that pipeline. And that's a workforce pipeline, that's a skilled and educated pipeline. So we're actually planting ourselves in rural communities all over the state to ensure that we're sending faculty there so that people can look eye to eye with the faculty, shake hands with the faculty, build a cohort, get that education and come in. We're also asking students, I'm a part of a national consortium called REP4, Rapid Educational Prototyping, where we're asking students, how would you redesign higher education? And then we're piloting those redesigns in our institution so that we can operate differently. And we're reaching down all the way with programs like Semiconductor for All. We're reaching down into middle school to do education for students to prepare them to be a part of these industries that are just exploding in Idaho. And so we're thinking differently in very, very practical ways about how higher ed can operate in partnership with our labs, in partnership with industry. In fact, right now, Micron is covering the K to 5, and we're doing 5th grade and up. And so the partnership is really deeply embedded. And we're also thinking with our communities about how we learn from them what they need for research. And that's not just industry, it's small business. And we're building those research projects and working out in the community. So we're very excited about how we can collaborate. And we actually, when I arrived in Idaho 5 years ago, one of the things I said was, if we have the Idaho National Lab there, and they have 2 missions, the nuclear and the cybersecurity, we're going to become the destination state for cybersecurity. And so we created a collaboration among all the Idaho universities to ensure that we're filling all the gaps in cyber.
Well, Marlene, you just described this explosive growth, this renaissance in some way, and this tremendous new opportunity. But I imagine, Marianne, explosive growth means an explosive demand for energy and new solutions. I'm hoping you can talk a little bit about, in my intro I mentioned, Idaho was the world's first in delivering usable electricity. Okay, that happened a while ago, but you guys are really on the cutting edge of a lot more interesting things, and hopefully you can share a little bit of that with us as you all are really powering this tremendous growth.
Right. Well, I think it's been made clear in a number of venues, including at the recent COP28, that if we're going to meet decarbonization goals for the world, we need a lot more nuclear energy than we have right now, because it is clean, firm power. And Marlene mentioned Boise being isolated. Well, you should come to eastern Idaho if you want real isolation, and that's relevant
come there too. Yeah.
Because this is where nuclear energy industry was born, and it was put there on the Snake River Plain west of Idaho Falls because it's an old Navy ballistic testing range. So they turned it into creating, when the nuclear Navy came on after World War II, they started working on nuclear energy out in Idaho, west of Idaho Falls. And we have built over the years 52 different test reactors for nuclear energy purposes. And we are right now in the process of working on 3 new demonstration projects for micro reactors. So these are very small reactors, just a few tens of or kilowatts up through a few megawatts in size, with the idea that they can be used for forward operating military bases. They could be used at the sites of mines. They could be used in Alaska remote communities. Niche applications like that, but they're be built in a factory, transportable, long-term core life, so you do not have to refuel every 18 months like you do in a large nuclear power plant that's in the fleet today in the United States. And then these we can then springboard into the small modular reactors, which would be in the few 100 megawatt size range, could replace retiring coal plants. And in fact, TerraPower has the Bill Gates nuclear company, has plans to build a sodium fast reactor called Natrium in Kemmer, Wyoming, at the site of a retiring coal plant. So we have this ecosystem sort of mapped out over the next decade, where we'll be doing a variety of different clean nuclear energy demonstrations that will hopefully then enable nuclear to have its renaissance and take its place in the clean energy future for the world. And as Jill mentioned earlier, when she was asked about nuclear power, and we talked about the non-proliferation and the risks and the need for the U.S. to exert leadership in nuclear energy, this is a big, important role for us in that.
Well, Marianne, I want to, and they're giving us already the time on this point because, and it's going to link back to you as well, Marlene. I was fortunate to be with Director John Wagner in Dubai last week for COP28. I know he visited the UAE's nuclear facilities and talked about even their commitment to triple production. Amazing. And it's good to see Idaho National Lab engaged in this sort of technology statecraft that we've talked about throughout the day. And Marlene, I know you've been a leader in the G20, advancing the future of advanced microelectronics and semiconductors. So while isolated, you all seem to be acting on the global stage. So I'm kind of, and in the minute we have left, I wonder if each of you could maybe just share one thought about how you see your institution playing and maybe punching above its weight on the global field.
I'd say for the university, it's really about this philosophy. We heard somebody say, leave no talent behind today. And that's, I think, what we're operating under right now is this notion that we can leave no talent behind. And if the future, as one of our other speakers said, if the future battlefield is connectivity, we don't just need to connect across the country. We need to connect across fields. We need to connect across sectors. We need to be connecting in multiple ways. We need to be building a really woven net, and that feels exciting to me, and that's what's happening there.
With regards to nuclear energy, it's truly an international phenomenon, and Idaho National Laboratory has the ability, the skills, the workforce, and the infrastructure to play a major role in the international field as well, and we are very well connected across the world. Chad mentioned that he saw John in Dubai. John has been many places across the world this year, Romania, Ghana, other places that are interested in developing nuclear power. And so we definitely intend to continue to have and enhance our role internationally.
Well, on that note, I'm excited to come out to Idaho. I don't think it sounds quite so isolated after all. So Marianne, Marlene, thank you very much. And you'll hear more from us about dates, and we hope to see all of you in Idaho as well. Thank you.
Thank you.